I know that's one simple example, Matt, but that emphasises to me, players that just didn't seem to have the desire to even bother running.
Yeah, I know.
And again, so when we're recruiting in this summer transfer window, it's absolutely imperative that we look at some, we get some soldiers in, we get some fighters and battlers because we are going to need them in League One. So, welcome back to Small Little Alliance FC. Now, Birmingham City have recently issued the retained list to tell us which players at the club are going to be released. And because of that, we thought we'd have a conversation today about some of the issues that occurred last year in the team. If you watch our channel, you can go back and look at the videos that we've done on previous games, and we kept talking about the same type of themes. We're going to refer to some of the comments made by Gary Rowett, actually, in his last game and his sort of departing comments in relation to what he felt, and with a view to trying to understand what was wrong and how the club should potentially look at recruiting for the new crop of players to avoid these issues. So I'll go over to Matt really and say, you've obviously sort of seen the comments that have been made. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Gary Rowett is a very professional manager. You look at Rooney and Troy Deeney, and they just sort of put their players under the bus and just say what's on their mind. Gary Rowett, you kind of have to read between the lines a little bit of what he's saying sometimes. And since the season's finished, he said quite a few statements. He's mentioned a few after the Norwich game, which I know you're going to go into in a minute. And obviously, he's released the final one, which was only a couple of days ago. And I thought it was really interesting. But he mentioned things like he enjoyed, he had no regrets joining Birmingham City, and he thoroughly enjoyed it and the experience. But on the statement I read, just the last one, a couple of days ago, I thought this was really interesting. I'm going to throw it back to you, Dad, in a minute. But he mentioned the owners. He mentioned the staff, he mentioned the fans, he mentioned the performances, and in the final statement, there was not a single mention of the players.
Well, interestingly, after the Norwich game, he did mention the players. I am going to read this out because you have to read the message behind the message. Because obviously I think he had a lot on his mind, but because he's professional, he didn't want to say. This is what he said after the Norwich game. And let me make it clear, Blues fans, we're not reiterating about the problems of last year. We know that season's gone now. We want to rebuild. But the reason we want to do this video and look at these statements is because we want to try and understand how the club can avoid this next season by the type of players. And they have to look at the character of the players as well as their ability. This is what Gary Rowett said. This is directly after the Norwich game. He talked a little bit about the game and etc. And then the key bit I want to talk about is towards the end of his statement. He said this: on the whole, the majority of the players in there have given everything and have got in terms of their energy in the day-to-day basis. There's definitely been moments where, as a group, we could do more, and we will always look back at that. It's been a tough period in some ways. When you're an interim manager, you sometimes haven't got the same level of authority to do things. You were trying to tread carefully, but that was the challenge when we came in. Now, this is the key bit that I got out of this. The key lessons for me are, this is Gary Rowett, if you want to be a really good team, every day, you have to do the right things. If you want to be a top athlete every day, you have to put the right amount of dedication and discipline into that. This is a crucial bit. I think that this has been short a few times, certainly in the 8 games that I have been here. Is that not questioning the players, Matt?
100%, yeah. And I don't know what the exact quote was, but I think we both missed it out. Didn't he say something about players not wanting to do the ugly side of the game? And I thought that was really interesting as well, because we've spoken about Siriki Dembele as an example to this. He likes to go forward and save his energy, and he doesn't track back. And I remember when Mowbray had his first week with the club, he said, no, that's not going to fly with me, son. You have to do the ugly work as well. And how many times, Dad, you mentioned it perfectly. The theme of last season's videos, guys, we were talking about passion, desire, fight.
Yeah.
And it was missing. And I think he's alluding to those exact words with our players by them not tracking back, them not fighting, and not having that battle and that desire. And it almost confirmed it. And he's quite cryptic in his words, isn't it? You kind of have to read between the lines of what he's saying. But the fact he said that after the Norwich game, and the fact he didn't even mention them in the final outgoing statement, to me shows that he wasn't possibly massively impressed with some of the attitude of the players.
No, I think you're right. Again, look at that statement as well. He says every day you have to put the right. Used the words dedication and discipline, and then he goes on to say that it's been short a few times. So he's saying that the players, or some players, I mean, we can't obviously target them all together, but some players are lacking dedication, and some of them lacking discipline. And,
Isn't that really disappointing to hear? Because we pay our money, we assume everything's going. Oh, sorry, we assume everything's going well behind the scenes. Gary Rowett's trying his hardest. He's brought his staff in. He's already up against the wall. He's an interim manager. We're in a relegation battle, and then you hear stuff like the players aren't turning up and showing the most that they've got, showing the dedication, showing the drive. That, to me, that's really upsetting as a Blues fan to hear that our players are turning up to the training ground and not giving the all on every session.
But we had, we didn't like him, and he in terms of what he sort of did at our club. But Rooney mentioned about the players as well. I'm not. Don't get me wrong, Blues fans. I'm not backing Rooney up here, but
Rooney.
he did mention that there was an issue with the players, and that seems to be something that other managers have said, as they've gone through the season.
Yeah.
So when we're recruiting, then for the new crop of players now, because obviously we've just had a lot of players released, all our loan players have gone back. There's got to be a real microscope on their character, and what type of players and quality. You can't just bring a player in because he's a player that can, do tricky, football tactics, and he can score loads and loads of, fancy goals. It's got to be someone that can put a shift in and work for the team.
Absolutely. I mean, look at Jay Stansfield as an example. Fair enough, he can put the ball in the net, but look at the work he put in. He did not stop running for the entire 90 minutes, and he scored 13 goals across all competitions in a team that wasn't even providing him very much service. And again, I know we're coming back and we're referencing a lone player, and I know we're almost referencing negative parts of last season, but it just shows you can put the ball in the net. We need flair players, we need creative players, we need goal scorers, but there needs to be more than that. You need to look at a player's personality, a player's drive, a player's dedication. You can't just be one attribute, one skill set. You need to have a broader package, especially in League One, because not to be too disrespectful to League One, but they're going to boot you off the park. It's a physical league. It's a very, very physical league. So if we turn up with the same attitude and the same types of players that we did, we're going to get. We might have a more talented team. We might have a team on a higher wage packet and a more worth more, but we will still lose games because we would get booted off the park.
Yeah, the first thing you've got to put in before you have any skill whatsoever, you've got to compete. And we mentioned as well, Matt, didn't we, last season? And you'll know this, viewers as well, if you've watched our videos from the post-match analysis we do, that we lacked desire. We lacked leadership. And that's something that has to change. The thing that emphasised it to me, I can't remember. It was one of the home games towards the end of last season. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was. We went on this phase of games where we lost at home to Middlesbrough, Watford, Cardiff, all really, really poor performances. But remember we were talking about throw-ins, where basically which is something simple as throw-ins, where we get the ball, we have a throw-in. Now other teams, as soon as they get a throw-in, the players are zipping and running and buzzing about. Our players are just strolling. So you're thinking, well, you're in a relegation scrap, and that you can't even be bothered to run around to try and get yourself in a position. And how many times did the thrower go? I got no one to pass it to.
Straight over. And then we'd go for a long ball, ping, lose possession immediately.
Yeah,
it happened a lot.
I know that's one simple example, Matt, but that emphasises to me, players that just didn't seem to have the desire to even bother running.
Yeah, I know.
And again, so when we're recruiting in the in this summer transfer window, it's absolutely imperative that we look at some, we get some soldiers in, we get some fighters and battlers, because we are going to need them in League One.
100%.
As you point out, Matt, some of the players that we've got, they're flair players, but they, the first thing that the defenders or the midfielders are going to do is just go straight through them, let them know who they are. So you can be as skillful as you like, but
getting past me.
You're at Crawley now, so in Crawley you go in the air. It's as simple as that, really. And this is why I think these comments from Gary Rowett are so important, because he's not actually come out and said that the players are, he hasn't mentioned any individual names, or he's
too professional for that.
Yeah, but he has given almost like a cryptic message there that you could easily decipher in different ways to demonstrate that he wasn't happy with some of these players, and
Yeah.
that
And,
something has to change.
when you're the interim manager and you know you're coming in and managing Tony Mowbray's team, there is a limit to what you can do. And from the sound of things, even you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make a drink. It's a famous saying, isn't it? So it sounded like his team was doing as much as they could, but the players just weren't motivated enough, which is sad to hear because we were in a relegation battle when Gary Rowett turned up, and it just shows actually how, with the context of that sentence in these statements that we're saying, actually how well he did. Because
He did, yeah.
again, if you just think about the results that he got with the team that he had and some attitude problems there, he actually did.
Well,
Turned it out to be pretty well in the
most
end.
seasons, 50 points would have been enough to stay up.
Yeah.
He just wasn't
In
this
fact,
season.
it's only been dropped. You've only ever lost a drop on 50 points or more in 4 other seasons in the history of the EFL. That shows you how high that the standard was. And
Yeah.
I was watching the Leeds Norwich game last week. It was the replay at Ellen Road, and I was just watching Leeds and. Fair enough. They're going to
The second leg, not
the second
replay.
leg,
Yeah.
the second leg, the one at Ellen Road, and they were just absolutely amazing. Players moving. Archie Gray, what young, hungry, determined. I just thought, he's the exact kind of player that we're missing. And fair enough, his market value now is going to go through the roof. I'm not saying we should go and buy Archie Gray. I'm just saying the type of player, gritty, fiery, determined, battled for every ball. And every time Leeds were going forward with their throw-ins, they were moving into space and running. It was an absolute demolition job, but it was impressive to watch. And I was watching it going, we need players like that. And even Somerville, fair enough. I mean, he's an amazing player. He was coming back. He was a flary, creative player. Was doing the dirty work and the ugly side of the game, which we've referenced in this video.
Because it's a team game.
It's a team game, and the higher quality players know you have to put as much going forward as you do going back. And games are won just as much off the ball as they are on the ball. And if there's no movement, if there's no desire and passion, you're going to lose games, especially in League One.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one final point for me, Matt, as well. You've mentioned it so many times over the course of the last few months as well. You think, and I agree with you, that the current squad is too nice.
Yeah.
We need some players that are obviously going to have a bit of an edge to them, have a bit of an attitude to them. That are not going to be sort of the Mr. Nice guy.
A key player for me there is Lee Buchanan. He puts in some massive challenges. He's not scared to get stuck in, but he gives the ball back to players, and I just think it's so silly. And I remember, I think it was the Watford game or the Middlesbrough game when they scored, and the guy asked for the ball back, and he just handed it. I thought to myself, I remember watching it going, launch the ball into the crowd, do something that shows that you're in the game and you want to fight. All these little things. I think, football is, as well as a mental game, is a physical game. And if you can get in the opponent's head as much as you can, you can win games. And if you're handing the ball back, what's that saying? To me, it's saying you're a pushover.
Oh, absolutely. At the end, when the final whistle goes, by all means, be as nice as you like, then shake hands and whatever you want to do. But when you go over that line, when that final whistle starts, you have to have that edge, that sort of little bit of attitude, and dare I say, a tiny bit of arrogance, maybe, just basically push yourself forward and not always be Mr. Nice Guy. And I think there's too many. That was part of our problem, wasn't it? We were just pushed around by too many teams because we were just too nice as well.
Too passive, too nice.
So I think, I don't know what you think, Blues fans. I think, obviously what we've talked about today is some of the issues that we encountered during last season. And undoubtedly, they would have been factors that would have contributed to our relegation. But now we've got this important time in our club's history where we have got a massive clear out that's already happened in terms of the retained list, and I'm sure we're going to see some contracted players going as well. So we're going to bring in a lot of new players, and we just hope that the club can almost look at the comments that Gary Rowett and other managers have made and actually make a decision to only bring in players that they feel are right for the club, not just because they can do individual certain things. But be interesting to know what you think, Blues fans, and what do you think about the type of players that we actually need? I mean, really, the answer to that, I'm pretty sure, is going to be we need players all over the pitch. And we do, because we need to fill virtually every position. But what about the attitude of players? What type of attitudes would you like to see in a Birmingham City player? What type of characteristics? In fact, give us an example in the comments below of the type of players that you think, not necessarily ones that may come to our club, but just their qualities that you think would suit us down to the ground. So exciting times ahead for us in terms of our recruitment, and we're really already looking forward to next season. But of course, that requires us to have the right team going into to League One. So let us know your thoughts. We do hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already checked out our social media channels, make sure that you look at our X account and Instagram account, and you'll see our handles appearing on the screen right now. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content on Birmingham City. And myself and Matt will see you on our next video.